All right, the 2023 UAP hearing took place about 2 weeks ago. Now, I think it was about maybe 3 hours long, and I've condensed it down to about 30 minutes for you guys. So it took a lot of work to do this, but I think this was probably one of the best hearings that we've had probably since Dr. Greer and the Disclosure Project done some 20 years ago. Okay, you got David Grusch, you have Commander Fravor and Graves in there. Of course, in the audience, you got Mr. Knapp, Corbell, all those guys, AOC's in there. I mean, all the, these big time players in DC. Finally taking the topic seriously. So again, it was about 3 hours long. We kind of condensed it down to about 30 minutes, the top 10, top 20 moments. Now, it's a long-winded hearing, so it's going to take a while to get through, but it's very important. So, all right, I'll stop babbling. Here we go.
I might have asked this before, but I want to make sure. Do you have any personal knowledge of someone who's possibly been injured working on legacy UAP reverse engineering?
Whoa, what?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I don't mean to pause it so quick, but he said, do you have any knowledge of anyone being injured while working on UAPs? Let's continue. I mean, we're starting out with a bang here, guys.
How were they injured? Is it something like a radioactive type situation or something we didn't understand? I've heard people talk about Havana syndrome type incidences.
Mm-hmm.
What was your recollection of that?
I can't get into specifics, but you could imagine assessing an unknown unknown. There's a lot of potentialities you can't fully prepare for.
During a training mission in...
Okay, now he said I can't get into specifics, but you can imagine when you're working with this unknown tech, people are going to get hurt. Okay, that's what he said. Now, you're going to notice in the meeting, they're going to have another meeting behind closed doors to where these guys can provide proof and evidence.
Warning area Whiskey 72, 10 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach, 2 F-18 Super Hornets were split by a UAP. The object, described as a dark gray or a black cube inside of a clear sphere, came within 50 feet of the lead aircraft and was estimated to be 5 to 15 feet in diameter.
I put that little
mission commander terminated the flight immediately
photo
and
up.
Base. Others have reached out to me to share their experiences, both on the military side as well as the commercial aviation side. On the military aviation side, veterans that have recently got out have shared their stories and have expressed 2014, 2015, continued all the way to 2019.
So he's saying that these UAP incidents, they've been happening, going back to 2013, 2014, to his knowledge. Now, they've been going back since the 40s. We know that, okay? But just what he knows, and that's incredible.
2020 and beyond. And so it became a generational issue for naval aviators on the eastern seaboard. This was something we were briefing to new students. This is something that was included in the notice to airmen to ensure that there was no accidents.
Wow.
Now with commercial...
They're briefing new students about UFOs, about UAPs flying around the sky. They're saying, hey, new guys, you're going to see some weird shit up there, okay? Some UFOs and UAPs, so just letting you know. I mean, how crazy is that? And why haven't those people come forward, right? I mean, if I'm training to be in the Navy or what have you, and someone tells me, hey, keep a lookout for UFOs, I think I'm going to say something.
So aviators, they are reaching out because they're having somewhat similar experiences as our military brothers and sisters, but they do not have any reporting system that they can send us to.
And let me just add to...
that would like to discredit you. So
here's Luna right here.
Amount of credibility to your testimony.
I'm required by law to do that as a former intelligence officer, or I go to jail for revealing classified information.
Yeah, we don't want you to go to jail. My next question would actually be for Mr. Graves. Can you please explain to me in detail the event that occurred at Vandenberg Air Force Base?
Okay, in Vandenberg Air Force Base, okay, she wants him to explain in detail what happened. Now, listen to this. This is crazy. And why wasn't this all over the news? Why did it take so long to be reported to the public?
Certainly. In the 2003 timeframe, a large group of Boeing contractors were operating near one of the launch facilities at Vandenberg Air Force Base when they observed a very large 100-yard sided red square approach the base from the ocean and hover at low altitude over one of the launch facilities. This object remained for about 45 seconds or so before darting off over the mountains. There was a similar event within 24 hours later in the evening. This was a morning event, I believe 8:45 in the morning. Later in the evening, post-sunset, there were reports of other sightings on base, including some aggressive behaviors. These objects were approaching some of the security guards at rapid speeds before darting off. And this is information that was received through one of the witnesses that have approached.
I don't want to repeat everything that they said, but you guys heard that, right? I mean, you have ground witnesses up in the air, this giant UAP, coming out of the freaking water. I mean, this is crazy. And here's the thing. I know that the Navy, the United States military, they have video of this. They have video, they have documents, they have it all. Why won't they release it?
Me at Americans for Safe Aerospace.
Was this documented in any official form, whether it was a police blotter?
Yes, they have official documentation and records from the event that the witness held over the years.
Wow.
And I'm not going to ask you to do it right now for time reasons, but you'd be able to sketch what was witnessed, correct? And
Yeah, there were certain colleagues of mine that were brutally administratively attacked, and it actually makes me very upset as a leader to see that happen to other coworkers and actually superiors of mine over the last 3 years.
How do you account for that response? That seems like a bizarre response.
Yeah.
I call it administrative terrorism. That's
Terrorism. Wow. And he's talking about if you speak out about what you saw, what you heard, what you witnessed, you're going to lose your job. There will be consequences, and you'll be terrorized by, who knows, men in black, three-letter agencies, whomever.
their quiver, their tool in the toolbox to silence people, especially, the career government service cares about their career, cares about their clearance, their reputation to climb the ladder. And when you threaten that career path, a lot of people back off. But I'm here to represent those people.
Some of the behaviors that we saw in our work.
But before we get to Graves here, what I like about Grusch now, and I was a little bit hard on him at first, I like that he is standing up for the people without a voice, for the voiceless, right? He's coming forward and, doing what's right, okay? And I like that. So, I'm not 100% convinced or sold on him yet, but I'm getting there. I'm starting to really trust him and like him, especially because they talk about how they want to have these closed door meetings where he will provide proof and evidence.
Area, we would see these objects being at 0.0 Mach, that's zero airspeed, over certain pieces of the ground. So what that means, just like a river, if you throw a bobber in, it's going to float downstream. These objects were staying completely stationary in Category 4 hurricane winds.
What? Okay, the UAPs staying completely stationary in Category 4 winds. What is that, 100 miles? 100? I mean, I'm in Texas. We get hurricanes all the time. I went through Harvey. I went through Ike. I went through Katrina. I've been through them all. And Category 4 winds, that's crazy. I believe that is well over 100 miles an hour. And he's saying that these UAPs remained stationary. What the bleep?
Would then accelerate to supersonic speeds, 1.1.
Supersonic speed.
Mach. And they would do so in very erratic and quick behaviors that I don't have an explanation for.
Sorry, guys, I'm getting excited.
We have nothing that can.
Look at old Corbell back here. Look, let me just point this out. Okay, everybody, suit and tie, suit and tie, suit and tie, suit and tie. Nice little outfit this woman has on. This dude, like I said on Twitter, looks like he's going to Home Depot to pick up some damn lumber. But whatever, Jeremy, do your thing.
Stop in midair and go the other direction, nor do we have anything
Braver.
that can, like in our situation, come down from space, hang out for 3 hours, and go back up.
Thank you. My last question.
And here's why.
Why?
The technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had.
Far superior.
You could put that anywhere. If you had one, you captured one, you reverse engineered it, you got it to work, you're talking something that can go into space, go someplace, drop down in a matter of seconds, do whatever it wants, and leave, and there's nothing we can do about it. Nothing.
go into space, come back down to Earth, drop down, go up, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's kind of scary when you're up against that technology. That would be like, our U.S. military going and fighting, cavemen back in the day, and they're throwing rocks and, stones at us. And that's the equivalent to what he's talking about, or the comparison to what he's talking about there. Wow.
As we proceeded to the west, the air controller was counting down the range to an object that we were going to, and we were unaware of what we were going to see when we arrived. The controller had told us that these objects to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space.
Space, people.
Above 80,000 feet is space. As we looked around, we noticed that we saw some whitewater off our right side. It's important to note that the weather on this day was as close to perfect as you could ask for off the coast of San Diego. Clear skies, light winds, calm seas, no whitecaps from waves. So the whitewater stood out in a large blue ocean. Looked down a small, saw a white tic-tac object.
And we've all heard this before, so don't think this is all you're going to hear. Okay, I mean, he's just kind of going over to members of Congress that haven't heard this in detail. And again, keep in mind, we've edited a lot of this out, so a very long hearing rather. But I just took the best parts to bring to you guys.
The longitudinal axis pointing north-south and moving very abruptly over the water like a ping pong ball. There were no rotors, no rotor wash, or any sign of visible control surfaces like wings. As we started clockwise towards the object, my wizard and I decided to go down and take a closer look with the other aircraft staying in high cover to observe both us and the tic-tac. It rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared. Our wingmen, roughly 8,000 feet above us, lost contact also. The controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cat point roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute." And they went out and luckily got the video that you see, that 90-second video.
90-second video. Now, also in the hearing, Fravor goes on to say, well, the video, they have hours of video, and it disappeared. Okay, so where's the damn video? And Congress wants to know as well.
What you don't see is the radar tape that was never released, and we don't know where it's at.
Yeah,
the active jamming that the object put on an APG-73 radar. What is shocking to us is that the incident was never investigated. None of my crew were ever questioned. Tapes were never taken. The tic-tac object we engaged in 2004 was far superior to anything that we had on time, have today, or are looking to develop in the next 10 years. If we in fact have programs that possess this technology, it needs to have oversight from those people that
never investigated.
Country elected in office to represent what is best for the United States and best for the citizens. I thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
You go, boy.
Do you have knowledge, or do you have reason to believe that there are programs in the advanced tech space that are unsanctioned?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. No bones about it. Yes, I do. Not, let me think about that. Yes, I do, sir. Okay, that's what, I do like that, Grusch is getting a little more, confident in, what he says. And I like that. The original News Nation interview, he was a little reserved, maybe nervous, perhaps. And I understand that. I'm not criticizing him for that. But now he's very confident about what he's bringing forth to the American public, to the world. In fact, forget America, to the world.
Okay. Yeah. And when you say that they're above congressional oversight, what do you mean?
Complicated question.
Top secret.
There's, some, I would call it abuse here. So congressional oversight of conventional special access programs. So I'll use Title 10, so DOD as an example, right? So 10 U.S. Code Section 119.
Right over their heads.
Discusses congressional oversight of SAPs, discusses the DepSecDef's ability to waive congressional reporting. However, the Gang of Eight is at least supposed to be notified if a waived or waived bigoted knowledge SAP is created, and that's public law.
Well, so that how does, I don't want to cut you off, but how does a program like that get funded?
Black budget, buddy.
I will give you generalities. I can get very specific in a closed session, but misappropriation of funds and...
misappropriation of funds, meaning all of these programs by our military and government are funding these black budget programs. That's basically, that's literally what he's saying.
Does that mean that there is money in the budget that is said to go to a program, but it doesn't, and it goes to something else?
Yes, I have specific knowledge of that. Yep.
Do you think U.S. corporations are overcharging for certain tech they're selling to the U.S. government, and that additional money is going to programs?
Correct, through something called IRAD.
IRAD.
Okay.
Keep that in mind. Look that
You're
up.
taking pictures of everything at every point and second.
Woo, this makes me hot.
Grusch, are you aware, do you have direct
This
knowledge,
pisses
or
me
you talk
off.
to people with direct knowledge, that there are satellite imagery of these events?
That was one of my primary tasks. And
Now, okay, cliff note, satellite imagery of these events, okay, meaning that not only do they have video and all of that, but they have the ability to film from space, like what is happening here on Earth, from, Earth level to low orbit.
since we process, exploit, and disseminate that kind of information. But I personally reviewed both what we call overhead collection and from other strategic and tactical
Give myself a red
platforms
dot.
that I could not even explain prosaically. And I have a degree in physics, by the way, as well. And I am aware that you guys have not seen these reports, unfortunately. And I don't know why.
Do you have direct knowledge, or you had spoken to people with direct knowledge, that this imagery applies to crash sites, crash imagery?
I can't discuss that in an open session.
That's a yes. Okay. When he says I can't discuss
any
that,
information that the U.S. government
it's
is
a yes.
involved in a disinformation campaign to deny the existence of certain UAPs?
bruh,
I can't go beyond.
is the government involved in a disinformation effort? Wow. Really? I mean,
What I've already stated publicly in my News Nation interview, because it touches other sensitivities.
Okay. I'll yield the balance of my.
Okay, so there has been activity by alien.
Oh, this guy's
or
not
non-human
too bright.
technology and/or beings that has caused harm to humans.
I can't get into the specific.
Yes, he does answer eventually yes. And then again, they're going to talk further about this behind closed doors.
In an open environment, but at least the activity that I personally witnessed, and I have to be very careful here because they tell you never to acknowledge tradecraft, right? So
He said trade craft, by the way. I was like, what did he say right there? He said they tell you to never acknowledge trade craft.
what I personally witnessed myself and my wife was very disturbing.
Have crashed craft.
What I personally witnessed with me and my wife was very, very disturbing, ladies and gentlemen.
Stated earlier.
And I like
do we
this
have the
lady,
bodies
Miss
of the
Mace.
pilots who piloted this craft.
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Alien biologics, biological entities, beings, whatever, came with these downed UAPs. Wow.
Were they?
Guys, this is groundbreaking. I mean, this is huge. He just said, yes, we have alien bodies. Absolutely. No bones about it, right?
I guess human or non-human biologics.
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
Who should be called into the next hearing about UAPs, either in a public setting or even in a private setting? And
I can give you a specific cooperative and hostile witness list.
I can give you a specific list, okay? Specific list of people that need to be called into the next meeting under oath. What do you know? What are you hiding? What's going on, right? Bring it, do it, it's time.
Of specific individuals that were in those.
and how soon can we get that list?
I'm happy to provide that to you after the hearing.
Mic drop. Look at that. He just gave her a little head wobble. I'm happy to provide that after the hearing. I mean, beautiful. One of my favorite moments right there. He did a little after the meeting. I mean, beautiful, perfect. Well done, sir. Let's continue.
Super. Thank you. And I yield back.
What is the most vivid, concrete sighting with the naked eye of the objects that you described before, the cube-like objects?
Near midair that we had at the entrance to our working area. One of these objects was completely stationary at the exact entrance to our working areas, not only geographically but also at altitude. So
Sorry,
it was right
guys.
where all the jets are going, essentially on the eastern seaboard. The two aircraft flew within about 50 feet of the object, and that was a very close visual sighting. It was there when the pilot landed.
2 UFOs flew within, 50 feet. I mean, Mr. Graves has a ton of great testimony. Look, I would love to have that little black book right there. Oh, my God. When they talk about little black books, he's got all the secrets right there.
He canceled the mission after, and I was there. He was in the ready room with all his gear on, with his mouth open, and I asked him what the problem was, and he said he almost hit one of those darn things.
He said he was 50 feet away from it?
Yes, sir.
Almost hit a UFO.
His description of the object was consistent with the description you gave us before.
A dark gray or a black cube inside of a clear sphere. No wings, no IR energy coming off of the vehicle.
Dark gray.
Nothing tethering it to the ground. And that was primarily...
Sorry, look, guys, audio might be a little bit off, but that's not my fault. That's YouTube. Let's continue. I mean, listen to this testimony. It's amazing.
Really what we were experiencing out there.
I'm over time. Thank you very much for your service, and I yield back to Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Mr. Burchett.
Testifying today. Want to just talk about UAPs as it relates to what we're seeing in the pilots' interaction with UAPs. Particularly, Mr. Graves, one of the, I think, concerns that for members of this committee is this idea that pilots, there's no system to actually report UAPs and the stigma around pilots. And so can you
now, after this, there will be a system put into place for pilots and military men and women to report UAPs.
Just briefly, you mentioned that you're working with 30 pilots right now that have had encounters with UAPs.
30 pilots.
But you've also, I believe, discussed and know of many more pilots. This is just those that you're currently working with. Is that correct? Can you expand on that?
Certainly. I'll break that down in two ways. First, when we were first experiencing these objects off the eastern seaboard in the 2014 to 2015 time period, anyone that had upgraded their radar systems were seeing these objects. So there was a large number of my colleagues that were detecting these objects off the eastern seaboard. They were further.
He said anyone who had updated their radar systems, they were seeing these objects. Now, what does that tell you? Think about it.
Correlating that information with the other onboard sensors.
Leave a comment below. Tell me, what does that tell you?
Eye sightings as well of these objects. Now, that was our personal first-hand experience at the time. Since then, as I've engaged this topic, others have reached out to me to share their experiences, both on the military side as well as the commercial aviation side. Mm-hmm. On the military aviation side, veterans that have recently got out have shared their stories and have expressed how the objects we were seeing in 2014, 2015 continued all the way to 2019, 2020, and beyond.
And beyond.
So it became a generational issue for naval aviators on the eastern seaboard. This was something we were briefing to new students. This is something.
Now, we went over this part earlier, so this is kind of my bad when he's talking about being a generational problem and briefing new students. We've already been through this, but I accidentally basically uploaded it twice.
In the notice to airmen to ensure that there was no accidents. And now with commercial aviators, they are reaching out because they're having somewhat similar experiences as our military brothers and sisters, but they do not have any reporting system that they can send this to.
Yeah.
And let me just add, both to Mr. Fravor as well as Mr. Graves, not having this system for reporting, would you both agree that it's harmful to not just our national security interests, but to understand this phenomenon of what's happening with UAPs?
Yes.
I think it's
has the U.S. government become aware of actual evidence of extraterrestrial, otherwise unexplained forms of intelligence? And if so, when do you think this first occurred?
I like to use the term non-human. I don't like to denote.
Him and this non-human, the way to categorize what's going on up there, it's a little bit annoying.
Origin keeps the aperture open.
The aperture open.
Certainly, like I've discussed publicly previously, 1930s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give me the names and titles of the people with direct first?
Listen to this. Can you give me the names, the titles, with the people directly tied to this, that have knowledge of this, okay? And I think if I remember right, he says, yes, behind closed doors, we can absolutely do that. And I like that because there you go. We need proof and evidence. But, they need to reveal some of this stuff to the public as well.
Firsthand knowledge and access to some of this crash retrieval, some of these crash retrieval programs, and maybe which facilities, military bases the recovered material would be in. And I know a lot of Congress talked about we're going to go to Area 51 and,
Area 51.
There's nothing there anymore anyway. It's just, and we move like a glacier. And as soon as we announce it, I'm sure the moving vans would pull up. But please.
Yeah, now, they all
I
admit
can't
Area
discuss that publicly, but I
51
did provide that information both to the intel
was a
committees
real
and to the
thing.
general.
Isn't that funny how that works? I mean, they used to laugh. When you bring up Area 51, people would laugh like, oh, little aliens, and now it's just common knowledge.
And we could get that in the skiff if we were allowed to get in a skiff with you. Would that be
In the
probably
skiff.
what you would think?
Sure, if you had the appropriate accesses, yeah.
What special access programs cover this information, and how is it possible that they have evaded oversight for so long?
Yeah.
I do know the names. Once again, I can't discuss that publicly and how they've evaded oversight.
And look, I know that's a little bit annoying. I know, but I can't tell. He's pulling like a Luis Elizondo here. I know, but I can't tell you by my book. Okay, but he does say, behind closed doors, I will absolutely tell you what you need to know, given you have the appropriate clearance. Okay, now what that clearance is, I don't know.
In a closed setting, I can tell you the specific tradecraft used.
All right. When do you think those programs began, and who authorized them?
I do know a lot of that information, but that's something I can't discuss publicly. Because
look how uncomfortable George Knapp looks right here in Corbell. I mean, look, they are like shoulder to shoulder right here. He looks so miserable, and I don't blame him.
All right. If any of y'all want to jump in on any of this, you're more than welcome to. What level of security clearance is required to fully access these programs?
Well, anybody who has...
and I say that because myself, Representative Gates, and Representative Luna were basically turned away at one point.
You hear that?
So please go right ahead.
Turned away.
Certainly difference between member access and, say, somebody like me, but anybody who has a TSSCI clearance and meets the eligibility criteria, the access adjudicative authority should be able to grant you access.
Mr. Burchett, if you'll yield, so just to put a fine point on
Adjudicated
that,
authority.
there's nothing that you're aware of that's above special access program classification.
It's a misnomer that there's anything actually above top secret. Executive Order 13526 delineates the classification levels.
Right, but I draw a point on that.
It's not a
because we can
misnomer.
have
I don't agree with that.
to those programs, and so the notion that we're not being given that access sort of defies our typical muscle memory here in Congress. Thank you, Mr. Burchett. I'll yield back to you.
Yeah, and what is it, Matt Gates, I believe, or I forget, or Gates, or however you say his name. He's the one who says, and by the way, someone brought this up in our group chat today, that he's the only one that's been able to see some of these UFOs on film, the only member of Congress that's seen some of these incidents, these UAP incidents on film that they speak of.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. Along those lines, Title 10, you may not know this or not, but Title 10 and Title 50 authorization.
Posture, it's very important.
They seem to say they're inefficient. So who gets to decide this, in your opinion, in the past?
It's a group of career senior executive officials.
Yeah, who gets to decide who knows the truth? And he says it's a group of
government officials?
Both in and out.
Do what?
In and outs of officials.
As far as
I got you.
there, yeah.
All right. Well, that's to your knowledge. I mean, we know we audit the Pentagon every year, and I've been here 5 years, and they failed the dadgum thing every year.
They failed that dadgum thing every time. What he's talking about is when they get audited, like, where's the money going? He said they fail it every single time. Where does it go? It goes to these special access programs, to these UAP programs.
They lose over $1 billion a year, we think.
Billions.
Department of Defense, maybe 60% of their assets are unaccounted for, whatever the heck that means. In the public sector, you go to jail for that kind of crap. So tell me.
Yeah, I know when I'm $1 off of my DTS travel voucher, I get hammered, but it seems like it doesn't work the other way.
If you
right?
sell over $600 worth of stuff on eBay, now you get a call from the IRS. So. Please, what corporations?
Yeah, I don't know the specific metrics towards the end of your question.
That's good.
The specific corporations I did provide to the committees in specific divisions.
Facts, though, right?
I spent 11 and a half hours with both Intel committees. So.
Okay. Has there been an active U.S. government disinformation campaign to deny the existence of unidentified aerial phenomena? And if so, why?
I can't go beyond what I've already expounded.
Oh, come on. Look, earlier he's basically said yes, absolutely, but I think maybe he's trying to walk it back a little bit now because perhaps he said a little bit too much in this hearing. There's about, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes left. I'm going to kind of skip forward just a little bit because I don't want to make the video too long, okay? So if you want to see the video in its entirety, I put it on Rumble, so let's go.
Here's what he said. They were out on a test mission that day over the Gulf of Mexico, and when you're on a test mission, you're supposed to have clear airspace. Not supposed to be anything that shows up.
Right.
And they saw a sequence of 4 craft.
Okay, he's talking about how they're up in the air, the fighter pilots, they're on a test mission, and they see these craft. Now, if you're going to test a drone, if you're going to test, you know, some special military secret program, you're not going to do it in the middle of a testing, a live testing activity.
In a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I alone have observed in the United States Congress.
Right there.
One of the pilots
Boom.
goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb. Again, like I said, not of any human capability that I'm aware of.
Okay, he is stating, okay, Matt Gaetz, that he saw this. He is the only member of Congress to see this video. Wow.
And when he approached, he said that his radar went down. He said that his FLIR system malfunctioned and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses, and it was not automated in collection as you would typically see in a test mission. So I guess I'll start with Commander Fravor. How should we think about the fact that this craft that was approached by our pilot had the capability of disarming a number of the sensor and collection systems on that craft?
Well, I think this goes to that national security side, and you can go back through history of things showing up at certain areas and disabling our capabilities, which is disheartening.
That is
and for
crazy.
us, I mean, like I said, it completely disabled the radar on the aircraft when it tried to do it, and the only way
UFOs, UAPs, disabling, you know, the highest military tech that we have, basically toying with them like a cat and mouse game. And he's saying, like, look, y'all better wake up. Okay, this isn't Russia. This isn't China. This isn't the military, the black budget military, you know, just trying to, you know, I guess, put this tech out on a test run. This is something unknown.
we could see it as passively, which is how he got that image. So I think that's a concern on what are these doing, not only how do they operate, but their capabilities inside to do things like this.
And how should we think about four craft moving in a very clear formation, equidistant from one another, in a diamond? In all of the phenomenon, perhaps, Mr. Grave, that you've analyzed, have we ever seen multiple craft in a single formation?
I have one particular case, and that was during the gimbal incident. The recording on the AT FLIR system shows a single object that rotates. You hear.
Remember, you hear the guy filming. He says, "There's a whole fleet of them." Remember, he says it all excited. You know, he's like, they're like, "What the hell is that?" And he's like, "There's a whole fleet of them." And this is what he's referring to. He did see a fleet, plural, multiple UAPs.
Here, the pilots refer to a fleet of objects that is not visible on the FLIR system, and that was something that I witnessed during the debrief as part of the radar data on the situational awareness page. I would like to add, however, Congressman, there's a small bit of anger, I would say. I would feel that those pilots are still facing that difficulty in reporting this topic, and they don't have the tools to be able to mitigate this issue. It just goes to show how serious this is and why this is such an important issue for our pilots and for our nation.
It was stated explicitly to me by these test pilots that if you have a UAP experience, the best thing you can do for your career is forget it and not tell anyone. Because any type of reporting, either above the surface or below the surface, does have a perceived consequence to these people, and that is a culture we must change if we want to get to the truth. Mr. Chairman, I would observe that perhaps as we move forward from this hearing, there are some obvious next steps. Every person watching this knows that we need to meet with Mr. Grusch in a secure, compartmentalized facility so that we can get fulsome answers that do not put him in jeopardy and that give us
He's saying, look, we need to have another meeting to where we can get a full answer, in a closed private setting.
The information we need. Second, I would suggest that the radar images that were collected of this formation of craft out of Eglin Air Force Base, and specifically the actual image taken by the actual flight crew that we can actually validate, be provided to the committee, subpoenaed if necessary, so that we're able to track how to get this type of reporting and analysis done in a more fulsome way. That would be my recommendation, humbly, as a guest here of the Fine Oversight Committee. I yield back.
What percentage of UAP sightings, in your belief, go unreported by our pilots?
Okay, what percentage of UAP sightings go unreported?
This is an approximation based off of my personal experience speaking with a number of pilots, but I would estimate we're somewhere near 5% reporting, perhaps.
Wow.
So like 95% basically don't report.
95%.
That's my personal estimate.
Unreported.
In the incident off Virginia Beach, do you believe the Navy took the danger to your aircraft seriously after it was reported?
Absolutely.
A few questions for Mr. Favor. As an expert naval aviator, have you ever seen an object that looked and moved like the Tic Tac UAP?
No.
No.
Did the Tic Tac UAP move in such a way that defied the laws of physics?
Yes.
The way we understand them, yes.
It took over 15 years for your encounter with the Tic Tac to be declassified. Do you feel there was a good reason to prevent lawmakers from having access to this footage?
No, I just think it was ignored when it happened, and it just sat somewhere in a file. Never got reported.
And they forgot about it.
It happens a lot up here. Shocker.
Yeah, it does.
I have experienced advanced UAP firsthand. I voiced the concerns of more than 30 commercial aircrew and military veterans who have confided their similar.
Let me skip forward a little bit here.
All UAP videos are classified as secret or above. This level of secrecy not only impedes our understanding, but fuels speculation and mistrust. Within 50 feet of the lead aircraft and was estimated to be 5 to 15 feet in diameter. Soon, these encounters became so frequent that aircrew would discuss the risk of UAP as part of their regular pre-flight briefs.
This is kind of like his open letter to Congress. He's talking about what he's already stated, but how it became so commonplace that, again, it was a part of their training when we're talking about UFOs, UAPs.
Majority of witnesses are commercial pilots that learned and retro.
An overclassification of information away from the American public or even Congress contributes to today's politics. The American people have regular questions. What are UAPs? How come the media doesn't report more on them? Are they foreign adversaries? Are they U.S. technology?
Maybe some.
Are they something else? They ask themselves, how come when a Russian jet shoots flares at one of our drones, we have perfect pictures and videos to show?
How come, when anything else happens, it's all over the news in 4K, but we can't get a good, clear video of any of this. How come it's he knows the answer, okay? This is, it's a loaded question. He knows that it's because they hide it.
Show the American people and the world. But when it comes to UAPs, nothing. Like when stealth helicopters
Hand over my heart.
rumored to exist, but were used
Preach, brother.
in the Osama bin Laden raid in 2011. But we can't allow that to be used as a shield to keep the American people.
Yes, all you have to do, all the government has to do is say, well, it's a matter of national security. And boom, there it is, gone.
Completely in the dark from basic truths. There are 171 uncharacterized UAP reports, and this is the words from the report, that appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities. I believe more information is known about the 171 instances.
Yeah.
And to our military leaders, if there's nothing to conceal, let Congress go to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the Dugway Proving Ground, or even Groom Lake in Nevada. We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow.
Okay, and that's basically the end. He said we need disclosure today, tomorrow, and that's that. So look, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I don't want to make it too long. Please help me out. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think about all of this. And this was, in my opinion, the highlights, but there's a lot of other good stuff in the hearing. So subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll see you on the next one.